This is a sub-gift.
Hey, hello, and welcome, and ignore the sound that I made accidentally. Because I was fucking around with the TTS feeds, and then it just played. Oh, good. Now that is done. Is this preview paused? It is now paused. Where did the chat go? There it is. Welcome, welcome, welcome. We will read some more lore today because I want to read Lissandra after seeing how much fucking lore she has. I'm very excited to see what that is. We're reading lore. Hello, Catracer. We are indeed. Let's see if I can actually get the chat thingy to work today. It looks like it. Hell yeah. Hell yeah, hell yeah. So, there. Then, let's see if we can move this. It does not stretch that long. See, this would do something. Kind of. Anything. That didn't do anything. probably a way. It would be nice to be able to do that. To like have my phone become webcam. Then I could move it more easily. That's what I attempt to do now. Not the phone. Change the. Because it's like. It feels retarded, right? To be frank. To have a camera where that's completely dead. That's just like a PNG at this point. You might see a puppy. You might not see a puppy. But it's also, what the fuck else would I have there? I can't just have a black box. I don't like that either. So this is the best we can do. I don't have any other ideas at the moment. I can have my bongo cat there. But it's like, oh, okay. But what if there is a dog? Then there will be a fucking bongo cat there. Should I just not have the dog? Should I just have a black box? I don't know. Bring back the raccoon link. I can make a Willow desktop interactive pet stream thing. Sounds like a lot of job. A lot of work. Why did I turn on fucking... Yeah, shut the fuck up. That's what I'm turning off. Oh, to be quiet. Yeah, I don't know what to do with that shit. I mean, it's better than the weird ass fucking boot camp whenever she was... Because now she's like... She moves around so much. Like, before, she was always like in the sofa or right there on the floor. Now she's like on the side of me, so it's impossible for me to show her. Hello, JP. Enjoy work. Nice to see you, though. Thank you. So it's like, I just don't know what the fuck to do with it, you know? And by the way, I saw the craziest shit. Apparently, Twitch has added something like some clip extension, so you can say like Twitch clip that and it will. Maybe it did now, I have no idea. But you can just say like Twitch clip that and it supposedly does. I'm like, okay. That sounds interesting, I guess. Exactly. Like, I'm like, okay. It doesn't seem like anything that you could... I mean, you can probably turn it on or off. It did! It did! Dude, I just got a thingy! Clip created from your stream using the voice command. Holy shit, dude. No way. That's fucking crazy. That will be abused. And then you just hear it like laughing. Oh no. I had to see if it worked. It actually worked. That's crazy. Funny. There's probably gonna be a ton of that. No, yeah. just to inform people, if ever you watch streamers and you hear and then they actually say it, it's like it actually does something now. It actually fucking worked. That's crazy. Cray. That's cray. Cray. Anyway, yeah, camera suck ass, but what else is there supposed to be there? Otherwise, it would literally be this. Oh. Or remove the box altogether. You just say fuck you to the box. That also works, I guess. You just remove the box. Or you just have this. I don't fucking know, dude. I don't fucking know. It is what it is today. Anyway. I've enjoyed reading some League lore because that's something that I will always be interested in. Always a strong word, but I don't see it ending because I've always been interested in League. And I play it on and off. I enjoy the story. I'm awaiting the MMO. Please release. For God's sake. Please be good. If it's not, then please don't release. Oh no, League. Hello, save. Cocaine. Yes. Hello. We're continuing some League lore today. And today we will read Lissandra. She has a lot of lore. If I remember correctly. Since we saw it last time. And it looked hella long. Lissandra, the Ice Witch. So many secrets buried in ice. As the reclusive leader of the Frost Guard, many believe Lissandra is a living saint whose followers bring healing and wisdom to the tribes of the Freljord. The truth is perhaps more sinister, as she uses her elemental magic to twist the power of true ice into something dark and terrible, entombing or impaling any who would reveal her deepest secrets. Indeed, the legacy of her past may yet be the beginning of the end for Runeterra. And if you've forgotten, Runeterra is like the world. So, All right. Biography first, of course. Read biography. Wow. Lissandra, the Ice Witch. In a time long forgotten, before the sands birthed and then swallowed Shurima, beings of old magic freely walked Runeterra. The borders between the mortal realm and what lay beyond it were hotly contested. Into this dangerous and volatile age, Lissandra and her sisters, Cyrilda and Avarosa, were born. Each sought to harness the powers at war, and each paid a terrible price. Attempting to command the heavens above them, Cyrilda lost her voice to the first twilight. Avarosa faced the twisting dark beneath the world, and was defeated, deafened by its emptiness, waiting to consume all creation. It was Lissandra who stood against the wild magic of the mortal world itself. For this defiance, the savage claws of a primal god raked across her eyes, blinding her. Though each sister had lost a part of themselves, it was on the frozen fields of Lissandra's many battles that they were able to unite and prevail. Together, they were unstoppable. But even a bond of blood could only weather so much. With her sight taken, Lissandra chose instead to walk in dreams. As she navigated the fitful visions of those around her, she realized only she could see the darkness below for what it was. The lingering abyss promised not only an ending, but infinity. It was death, both dangerous and full of potential. Unknown to her sisters, Lissandra struck a deal on their behalf with the godlike entities she had communed with. The Watchers would grant them near immortality in exchange for preparing Runeterra for the coming of the Void. The three sisters and their most powerful followers were named Iceborn. Those with this ability to withstand the worst of the numbing frost would be spared until the very end. However, Lissandra's sisters grew displeased. Avarosa argued that the only thing worse than death was servitude. Even Cyrilda bristled against what would become of the world they had fought so hard for. Caught in the middle, Lissandra tried to soothe her sister's concerns, while appealing to the Watchers for more time. But the unknowable nothingness cared not for such platitudes. The void erupted into the mortal world in the far north, and with it, Lissandra's hidden allegiance to the Watchers became undeniable. In that moment, her only choices were to let all the world be consumed, or to give up what she cared for most. Lissandra sacrificed her sisters and the allies they had gathered, entombing the Watchers beneath a glacial barrier of magical ice that could never be melted. Ooh. Lissandra soon discovered that even this elemental power was not enough. The monstrous beings she had frozen were merely slumbering, slowly tainting the true ice around them into something darker. Now they wandered through Lissandra's dreams as easily as she had theirs, and always she would wake, terrified, professing her loyalty to the chilling eternity they promised. Ever the survivor, she gathered her remaining followers to venerate her and her departed sisters. If true ice would delay the inevitable end of all things, then they had to gather as much of it as they could find, and scour the frozen lands for any of Iceborn descent to join their cause. I will cough. Lissandra and the first among her Frostguard did everything in their power to rewrite history, seizing all records of what had truly happened. And yet, rumors and prophecies persisted in myth and song. It was whispered that Avarosa and Cyrilda would one day return to unite the disparate tribes, and so Lissandra had any who had hailed as their reincarnations Lissandra had any who were hailed as their reincarnations quietly killed, but Ash still lives. Even she retreated into the shadows, periodically renewing herself with the powers she had been gifted. Like the threat that lies trapped beneath the ice, Lissandra has never been able to completely control her sister's legends. Whether from guilt or arrogance, her failure to eradicate their legacy has manifested once more in two powerful Iceborn, one an idealist, the other a conqueror. And now, between them, they lead many tribes within the Freljord. Lissandra watches them carefully, seeking any opportunity to pit them against one another, all the while redoubling her own efforts to lock away the terrible secrets she has buried deep under her citadel. And she must hurry, where the ice is beginning to melt. Ooh. So Avarosa could come back? ? I did not know that this was all like void and shit. Like what? I think that this is newer lore that they came up with. I do not think that when Lissandra was released, they were like, yeah, Lissandra just fucking sacrificed the other two to the void. I don't think that was a thing. I could be wrong. I've never read her lore, but I feel like it did when she got released though, and I don't remember any of this. It just feels like a newer thing. I don't know. Maybe, I guess. Well, okay, maybe you will learn some more in the legend of the Frozen Watchers. There she is. Of all the tales of the old Freljord that have somehow endured into the modern age, there is one, and one alone, that can chill the blood of even the hardiest iceborn. The Frostguard do not tell it. Many of them do not even know it in full. By decree of the Ice Witch Lissandra herself, to perpetuate this forbidden legend is heresy against the true faith, and carries the penalty of death for any who speak it aloud. In all the vast libraries of the Frostguard Citadel, only a single written account remains, and that was penned by her most trusted scribe, many thousands of years ago. Few indeed are those individuals across Runeterra who know the truth behind the legend, and Lissandra can count on the fingers of one hand those who were there in person and might dare to contradict her. It was in the final dark days of the War of the Three Sisters that Avarosa and Cyrilda finally marched their warriors up into the mountains to face Lissandra before the walls of her own fortress. They would not serve the otherworldly masters that she had pledged them to. This would be an end to it. So the Void, okay. The Ice Witch gestured to the armies they led, the great alliance that had finally brought these wild lands to heel. The mortal Iceborn were all but immune to the winter's chill. The Troll Kings had roamed far across the tundra, amassing tremendous wealth from their conquests. Even the magnificent and terrible Bale Striders, twisted far beyond their original form, moved now at the command of the three. All of this, Lissandra reminded her sisters. Wait, I need to cough. There we go. All of this, Lissandra reminded her sisters, was because of the bargain she had made with the masters of the realm below, the beings she knew as Watchers. It was they who had revealed to her the primal secrets of the world. It was they who would have the final victory. So the Watchers are from the Void. Then, I guess? And it was then, at the height of the bitter confrontation, that the Watchers finally came to Runeterra. The ground split open, swallowing thousands of warriors into the abyss beneath it, before the first of the dread things heaved itself up into existence. It was new to the material realm, bewildered by such notions as form and constancy, and began immediately to rail against them. In a foul riot of unchecked metamorphosis, it sprouted horns and patches of fur, and its colossal tentacular limbs grew into joined humanoid arms with fingers that clawed the bare rock of the mountainsides. Worst of all, other Watchers were following closely in its wake, racked by horrifying transformations of their own. And it makes sense that Nar fought a void creature. It might be fair to assume there was a battle, that the Iceborn rallied behind Avarosa and Cyrilda to fight back the darkness. But in truth, it was Lissandra who ended it. She saw these abominations now for what they were, and knew what had to be done. Summoning every last iota of the ancient magic around her, including that of her allies, she sacrificed everything to seal the rift between realms with true eyes, entombing the Watchers within it. Vast plumes of freezing vapor howled through the chasm, and those mortal warriors who managed to escape were driven to insanity by what they had witnessed. This, then, is not only the legend of how Lissandra saved the world from destruction, but also the only first-hand account of the martyrdom of Avarosa and Cyrilda. and may the three have mercy upon all who read it. Thank you. Have mercy. Okay, very cool. Okay, a lot of void stuff. So I thought the whole thing about True Eyes was that he could not melt. But then in her biography, it's like, and the ice is beginning to melt. So I'm like, okay. But then was Nar trapped in Lissandra's eyes? But he has melted. So, but that was also hella long ago. So maybe not? Is that something else? But that doesn't make sense. Because it should have been Lissandra's, because that makes sense, you know? Why would it happen twice or some shit? And it was a void creature. Okay. We're not watching videos. Well, then this short story does not seem like it is Vel'Koz related. I mean, it is Vel'Koz related, but this is highly Lissandra related too. But this one is literally like, that's Ornn though. I'm gonna skip this one. This is Ornn's lore. It just happens to mention Lissandra. Probably. That's usually how they do it. They're like, oh, here's a short story. And it's like, it's the tales of Ornn. Why is this in Lissandra's? Because Ornn is also connected to Lissandra. So she's probably just mentioned. Or she has a cameo, you know? So they're like, this is Lissandra lore. I'm like, yeah, but not really. Matt Dunn wrote a lot. Holy shit. Okay. Then we will read this. The Eye in the Abyss by Anthony Reynolds. And who is he now again? Like, he is someone though. Is he the one who wrote? No. He is not the one who wrote, because that's the other one. Hello? Runeterra, the Runeterra book. That's not him. He's written some Warhammer things. He's written a lot of shit. Or did he write Ruination? Did he write Ruination? Ruination author. Anthony Reynolds. Well then. That's why I'm like, I know him. I knew him before though. Like, isn't he also like a Riot Games founder, sort of? He's the lead writer at Riot. Well, that makes a lot of fucking sense. That's why I know you. Okay, well, this better be good, Anthony. Of course it will be. Okay, The Eye in the Abyss by Anthony Reynolds. Sigvar half quiver, knelt on one knee, head bowed, while the wind beyond the gates howled like the eyes of rats of legends. Eyes wraiths of legend. He was the clever of peaks, the bloody sword of Winterspike. He had taken the head of the war chief of the Chosen Children, Helmgar Cragheart, and had held the Valley of Spines alone, fighting the Morn Crow tribe to a standstill until reinforcements from the citadel arrived. What's more, Sigvar was Iceborn. This is a long one, by the way, so fucking strap in. And yet, for all his deeds, all the honors he had earned under the eye of Lissandra, as he knelt in the open gateway of the Frostguard citadel, with the wind lashing and the unearthly banshee's wail of the howling abyss whipping around him, he felt a flutter of trepidation at the task ahead. He did not wear his heavy, dark armor, for its weight would have been impractical for what was to come, but he felt comfort in having his shield on his back and his sword at his hip. Expectation hung upon him. He prayed he would not be found wanting. You delve now into the darkness below, brothers and sisters of the lodge, said Ralaka Split Tongue, Frost Father of the Keepers. But you will not be alone. We, the children of the frozen shadow, are never alone. Not in the darkest winters of the frozen expanse, nor in the deepest chasms of the hidden ways. The eye of Lissandra watches over us, now and always. From eyes we are born, and to eyes we will return, intoned Sigvar, his words echoing those of the others 2 lodge members kneeling beside him. To his left was Olar Stonefist, a legend among the Frostguard, who had fought in their ranks for half a lifetime before Sigvard had even been born. Wolf lean, grey-bearded, and iron-eyed, his skin was like hardened leather, riven with deep crevices and valleys. Ice-bear furs draped his shoulders, but his arms were bare, and covered in faded war tattoos and a dozen iron rings, each one in ritual combat. His massive great hammer, Thunderchild, amazing name, Thunderchild, was strapped across his back. That weapon, its head encased in 2 eyes, was as storied as Olar himself. To Sigvar's right knelt Halla, ice in her soul. While he idolized Olar, Sigvar was overawed by Halla. Utterly fearless and her faith unshakable, she was as unforgiving and deadly as winter. Her twin short-hafted axes, Bloodfang and Bloodclaw, hung at her waist, though it was strange to see her not garbed in her dark mail and horned helm. That is not Ash's mom, right? That was Hela or some shit, right? Like it's close. If I don't, Hela sounds weird as well. I don't think it was Hela. Maybe it was. It's just like, I don't know, and it feels a little bit weird if she would be here. I don't think she would. I don't think it's the one, but it reminded me of Ash's mom's name, whatever it was. She, like Sigvar and Olar, had eschewed her armor for their journey. The sides of her head were shaved, while the rest of her pale hair was tied into a single intricate braid down the center of her head, like a crest. Her left eye was white, blinded by a blow that had left a trio of savage scars cut across her face. He'd heard Olar tell the tales of those scars, earned when Halla had fought the hunting pack of Ursin. She'd killed 3 before the others slunk off, so it was said, and Sigvar believed it. Had she not been embraced into the Frostguard as a child, Halla would undoubtedly have been a powerful war mother in one of the tribes beyond the citadel. The Frost Priest stepped in close, moving first to Olar. The eye is upon you, he incanted. Yeah. I need to look this up. League of Legends, Ash, mom. Grenna. Oh my god, why did I... Grenna. Okay, Grenna. Halla. Okay, got it. Because I was like, there's no way. Right, her name was Grenna. Forgot. Eyes upon you. Sigvar barely heard Olar's growled reply. His heart was thumping so hard. Then the Frost Priest was in front of him, and his stomach lurched, as it had before his first battle. Look up, Frostguard, the priest said, quietly, and Sigvar obeyed, tilting his chin back to look upon the old man's face. It was skeletally gaunt, with sunken cheeks and shadow-rimmed eyes. There was no kindness there, but Sigvar expected none. Theirs was a harsh and unrelenting faith. A shard of sacred dark eyes hung around Split Tongue's neck. Another topped his knotted staff. Slivers of holy reverence, used for healing and worship. The Frost Priest dipped a finger into a shallow basin filled with kraken ink, black and stinking, and drew an eye upon Sigvar's forehead. The eye is upon you, he said, and it does not blink. intoned Sigvar in reply, lowering his head once more. His forehead burned as the ink seared his skin, but he endured it with the stoicism of the Iceborn. Pain was blessing. The priest moved to Halla, completing the ritual, and the three chosen Iceborn stood. Olar was the tallest of them, wiry and corded with lean muscle, while Sigvar was by far the heaviest. Halla stood half a head shorter than Sigvar, yet the power and authority she radiated made her seem larger. The three Frostguards stooped to collect their packs, ice picks, and coils of rope, which they threw over their shoulders and hooked onto their belts. Sigvar glanced back at the ranks of Frostguard standing in silent witness to their departure. Relaka Split Tongue turned away, his part in their expedition done. A cluster of other frost priests followed behind him, like crows shadowing a war party. The darkness of the citadel quickly swallowed them. "Time to go," said Halla, ice in her soul. "The darkness calls." With a nod, Sigvar joined Halla and Olar, turning away from the gathered Frostguard and walking through the giant gates of the citadel, out onto the bridge beyond, spanning the howling abyss. The ethereal wails borne upon the wind intensified, and shards of ice slashed at them, but none of them flinched from it. They welcomed it. The ice was their ally. The ice was their truth. Behind the three Frostguard, the great gates of the citadel slammed shut with a resounding boom that was soon lost in the gale. Sigvar took a deep breath. It was time to descend into the abyss. What? They're going down into the void. Can they do that? What the fuck? Okay. I guess that's what he means. Crazy. Ooh. I've never read anything about that. I don't know much about the void, to be honest. Exciting. The journey was made every year, on the vernal equinox, and no one ever returned, or what? When day and night were of equal length, 3 among the Frostguard was chosen. All came from the Keeper's Lodge, the inner circle of the faith who guarded the Deeping Ways. It was a great honor to be singled out for this most sacred of duties, and Sigvar's chest had swelled with pride when the deep horns had sounded and his name been called. At 19 winters, he was one of the youngest Frostguard ever to have been chosen. How many times had he gazed upon the roll of honor, thousands upon thousands of names, chiseled into the walls of the lodge. One of his first memories, after coming to the citadel, was of reverently tracing the outline of those names, and dreaming of their great deeds. More than half had a simple rune engraved after their name, the rune of death, indicating those who had perished while performing this sacred duty. It was a dangerous thing to delve too deep, even for one of the Iceborn bloodline. Kneeling before the dark ice statues of the three, revered Avarosa, Serilda, and Lissandra. He had long beseeched them to find him worthy, to one day let his name join these esteemed others. Now it seemed his prayers had been answered. He had trained his whole life for this honor. He would do the Keeper's Lodge proud. They walked along the bridge, beneath the gaze of the giant, silent guardian statues that marked the way. The relentless winds battered them, screaming around them in whirling eddies. It had many names, this bridge, the Proving Grounds and the Murder Bridge among them. Others knew it simply as Citadel Bridge, or the Howling Arch. If it had a name during the time of the three, it was now lost. Among the Frostguard, it was often referred to as the Bridge of Sorrows. Thousands of Iceborn had perished here, after all. It was truly ancient, said to have been crafted by the old gods. The time of those deities was long past, of course. Some of the heathen tribes still worshipped them, but in time they would be brought around to the true faith, voluntarily or by the sword. Regardless of whether they accepted it or not, the ice would claim them. Parts of the stonework had crumbled, falling into the darkness. Time had no respect for ancient beauty, the Frost Priest taught. Everything was fleeting, on a large enough time scale. Even the greatest mountain would be leveled by wind and ice given enough years. Only faith was eternal. Of course. How convenient. A deep sense of reverence hung over Sigvar as he walked with Stonefist and ice in her soul across the expanse. The greatest battle ever to have been fought had taken place here, thousands of years past. Here, the Iceborn had fought the Watchers, in a battle that would determine the fate of the world. And here they were victorious, though only at great cost, and the Watchers had been hurled into darkness. Sigvar walked in silence, lost in his thought of that earlier, greater age. Neither of the other two Iceborn spoke as they made their way across, though whether that was due to the relentless roaring of the wind, or if they too were lost in ancient legend, Sigvar knew not. They reached the other side of the Bridge of Sorrows, where Lissandra had led the Iceborn in the ancient Titanic battle, and there Halla, ice in her soul, called a halt with a raised hand. "We go down here," she said, shouting to be heard over the gale, pointing towards a section of the bridge near the chasm wall that had long ago fallen. Sigvar and Olar both nodded in difference. Olar might have been older and more experienced, his name carved 9 times upon the wall of the lodge of Halla's 3, but old habits died hard. The blood of the 3 was stronger in the women was the blood of the 3 was stronger in the women of the Freljord tribes. "I lead the way," shouted Halla. "Stonefist is the anchor in the center, half quiver at the back." They unraveled 2 lengths of rope, hooking them onto each other's belts. Halla's to Olar's, Olar's to Sigvar's. They tightened the straps on the iron toe spikes affixed to their boots, and unhooked ice picks, securing them to their wrists with loops of leather. Halla whipped her picks around in a few arching, tight circles, loosening her muscles. Then she jumped off the bridge, landing 10 feet below on an outcropping of ice, jutting from the chasm wall. Sigvar and Olar waited for her to rescue herself, digging her picks into the ice, before they jumped down to join her. "We are the will of the goddess, she who walks among us," said Halla. "Do her proud, sons of winter." Then she went over the edge, putting her picks deep and scrambling over the precipice. She kicked her toe spikes in and began the descent. Olar grinned at Sigvar, his eyes glinting with savage glee. "You will not be the same Iceborn when we return. The Howling Abyss changes you, if you return." He gave a wink, then he too went over the edge, disappearing from sight, leaving Sigvar alone. No, not alone, he reminded himself. The eye was upon him. He felt it burning still into the skin of his forehead. Lissandra was with him, now and always. He waited a moment longer, then began the long climb into the fathomless depths. They moved fast. Halla, ice in her soul, setting a punished pace, though they did not take any undue risk. They climbed one at a time. First Halla, then Olar, then Sigvar, moving almost to the length of their ropes with each descent. In this way, they were able to keep a steady anchor in case of a fall, and the intermittent rest allowed them to keep progress downward steadily, without need for a longer pause. The Bridge of Sorrows was not the only one of its kind to cross the expanse. Dozens of others spanned the walls of the crevice, though only a few were visible at any one time. The distance, fog, and darkness closing in like a shroud. All but the uppermost bridge had long been abandoned and remained unused. the myriad tunnels and gateways leading onto them having been sealed by avalanche or by the frost guard themselves to limit the number of entrances into the citadel. The closest bridges were several 100 feet apart, yet the deeper they went, the more spaced out they became. Some had been destroyed completely, only the skeletal abutments protruding from the ice walls indicating where they had once been. It was dark, but not the complete, all-consuming darkness of midwinter. It was more akin to the faded half-light of the gloaming hours. The ice itself seemed to radiate a dull, ethereal glow, which reflected upon the thickened fog, such that the three did not need carry torch or brand. The shrieking gale still whipped through the ravine, tugging at them like spectral hands, trying to prise them from their tenuous hold on the ice. It was impossible to judge the passing of time. The hours blurred together into one single uninterrupted span. Climb, wait. Climb, wait. On the climbs, Sigvar found a good rhythm, losing himself in the repetitive motion of hacking the ice picks in deep, kicking in the toe spikes, and hauling the picks back out. While waiting for Halla and Olar to descend below him, he mouthed the litanies of truth, keeping himself focused. Resist not cold embrace, for within it lies truth. Be as one with the ice, and understanding shall follow. Down and down and down they climbed, moving steadily. Hours might have passed, or a day. Unable to see the sky, Sigvar had no way to know. Endure, without complaint. The ice begs not for mercy, nor offers it. Neither shall we. No lesser being would have been able to match their pace. They were iceborn, the children of the gods, and they were not as other mortals. Able to march for days on end without sleep and still fight any foe to a standstill, they stoically endured that which would have killed any hearthbound. Even so, Sigvar's forearms were aching, and he was covered in a sheen of sweat beneath his skin and furs. And when the ice gave way beneath him, he was too slow to react. He struck out with one of his ice picks, but it did not bite deeply, and merrily tore a chunk from the wall. Then he was falling. Fear not pain, nor seek to avoid its blessing. Without it, there can be no life. Turning in the air, he made another attempt to arrest his fall, slamming a pick into the ice, but it tore from his grasp, and he would have lost it had it not been tethered to his wrist. And when death comes, flinch not from its approach. He dropped 40 feet, hurtling past Olar. The older man's flinty eyes were wide. From ice we are born, and to ice we return. Brace! The old Frostguard warrior bellowed, tightening his grip and bending his legs in anticipation. He saw Halla look up and mouth a curse as she realized he was falling straight towards her. She moved quickly and assuredly, hacking her pick swiftly into the ice and shifting herself sideways so he didn't smash her from the cliffside. The rope caught his fall then, arresting it with bone-jarring abruptness. He slammed into the ice wall, the impact driving the air from his lungs. Olar roared as he took Sigvar's weight. Stonefist held, however, clinging to the ice, his arms as taut as iron. His arms as taut as iron. Sigvar recovered quickly, slamming his picks home and kicking his toe spikes in deep. He glanced over at Halla Ice and her soul, who stared at him, her own piercing eyes, one blue, one white, as unblinking as the one painted on her forehead. She stared in silent judgment. We'll take a rest at the Bridge of Shadow, she said, finally, and continued climbing down into the twilight gloom. Sigvar cursed himself, his cheeks burning despite the cold. When Olar climbed down past him, he gave another of his wide, toothy grins. You're a heavy bastard, half-quiver, he said. Damned well nearly took us both down with you. The ice gave away, said Sigvar weakly. I'll do better. See that you do. Might just cut your rope next time. Sigvar looked at the old warrior quizzically. On 3 of his previous expeditions down into the abyss, Olar had been the only one to return alive. Was this why? Because he killed the others? Doesn't sound too good. At the Bridge of Shadow, they dropped their packs, uncoupled their ropes, and unhooked their ice picks. The bridge was so named because, even in midsummer, when the sun never dipped below the horizon, it was never truly in the light. Olar slumped to the flagstones with an exaggerated groan, propping his back against the low balustrade at the edge of the bridge. Hela stepped away from the other 2, unhooking a tiny black effigy of Lissandra from around her neck and placing it upon the ground. She knelt before it, breathing a devotion. Sigvar stood stock still, wondering if he too should take this time to pray. But Olar waved him over, urging him to sit. "Hello, Popper, welcome." "We're reading Lissandra right now." The older man, exactly how old he didn't know, but Olar was certainly well past 60, produced a small leather flask. Unstoppering it, he took a swig, gave a satisfied sigh, and handed it to Sigvar. The younger warrior took it with a nod of thanks and knocked back a measure. "Tears of the gods," said Olar. "Nothing like it this side of the Ridgeback Mountains." The liquid burned hot in his throat, making his eyes water. Those tears turned instantly to ice on his cheeks. He nodded in appreciation and handed it back to Olar, who took another swig before secreting it back within his furs. Oh my god. Do you see my dog right now? Oh, fucking cute. I need to take a picture. This is the second ever time I've seen her done this. Ever. It makes me so happy. Basically, she's lying on her back. I'll show you. How cute is that? Oh. Then she lays on her back with her belly up. So cute. Oh, I died. Okay. Anyway, so cute. Where was I? The liquid. Oh. The liquid. Yeah. A water skin would have frozen as soon as they stepped beyond the gates of the citadel. They would endure without, but the strong spirit was welcome moisture on Sigmar's throat. Olar's heavily tattooed arms were still bare, and Sigvar shook his head as he pulled his furs tighter around him. "Aren't you freezing, old man?" he said. "It's going to get a lot colder than this, boy," said Olar, giving him an evil grin. "This is like a summer breeze, compared to what's yet to come." Sigvar didn't know if he was joking. He pulled his pack over to his side and brought out a small strip of salted meat, wrapped in waxed leather. He snapped off a frozen section and handed it to Olar, before breaking off a piece for himself. He worked it around his mouth, thawing it enough to chew. It was tough and sinewy, but in that moment it seemed an extravagant luxury. She disappeared. Slumped with his back against the low wall alongside Olar, Sigvar was out of the worst of the howling wind, which itself was blessing. It screamed over them, wailing horribly, sending flurries of ice and snow swirling across the bridge. Some said the sound of the wind was the screams of the thousands of Iceborn, killed in that final titanic battle in the Age of Heroes, long ago. Their souls trapped here forever in this chasm. It's a fearful sound, isn't it, lad? Said Olar. Gets inside your head after a time. Is it the same all the way down? Olar shook his head. Would that it was. No, down towards the bottom, it's as silent as the grave. That's got to be better than this. You'd think so, wouldn't you? But the silence is worse. It's heavy, that silence. Weighs upon you like a full-length chainmail. No, I'd take this any day. Halla finished her devotions and joined them, sitting alongside Olar. She took a long swig from Olar's flask, then wiped her mouth with the back of her gloved hand. How is it you always have the best stuff, Stonefist? She said, making Olar snort. Must be my charming personality, he replied. I'm quite certain that it's not. Her expression was deadpan, making Olar snort once more. Sigvar leaned over, gingerly offering her some meat, still hot with shame at having fallen. She looked at it for half a moment, making Sigvar think she was going to reject the offer, but finally she took it and nodded her thanks. How did you earn your name, Half-Quiver? She asked as she chewed. There was a raid. I was a tenderfoot, accompanying a caravan escort, bringing provisions back to the citadel. We were attacked out on the frozen expanse. A blizzard had hidden their approach. Tuskroat tribe. Halla grunted. Dangerous warriors. Head takers. Sigvar nodded. I took some arrows in the skirmish. Kept fighting though. Stonefist honored me with my name once the last of the Tuskroats had fled, leaving their dead and dying to the side. Dying to the eyes. You'll never make a saga teller, boy, said Olar. Too modest by half. No sense for the dramatic. Not like you, old one, said Halla. I swear your stories get more far-fetched with every telling. Have I told you my bear story, lad? Olar asked, giving Sigvar a wink. No, said Halla, leveling a finger at old Frostguard. I will not hear that again. Another time then, said Olar, with a resigned shrug. Anyway, the Tuskroat stuck the boy with no less than a dozen arrows. You were only, 14 winters? He was a big lad though, even then. Not quite the giant slab he is now, but still big. Had 4 arrows in his shield, 2 in one leg, 1 clean through his forearm, 2 in his chest, 1 in his shoulder, more in his back. But he kept on fighting, bellowing like a stuck elnook. Took down 3 Tuskroats before another arrow hit him, making him drop his sword. My voice. There we go. Still didn't slow him. He pulls one of the arrows out of him and kills another 2 Tuskroats with it. One of the funniest damn things I ever saw. True Iceborn. Would have done Cyrilda herself proud. Fearless mother, said Halla instantly, grasping the pale talisman of Cyrilda, hanging around her neck alongside those of Avarosa and Lissandra. Fearless mother, Sigvar murmured. His face was burning, and he looked down, uncomfortable with Olar's praise. You have a strange sense of what is funny, Stonefist, said Halla, pushing herself back to her feet. Come, it is time to move on. I'm sorry I fell. Oh, no, Sigvar said, as he regained his feet and made ready for the next stage of the climb. On my oath, I will not let either of you down again. If you fall, it is the will of 3, said Halla. And if you fall and take us down with you, then such is to be our fate also. Your oath matters nothing. Oy. Oy, a picture. She walked past him, looking for the best place to recommence their descent. Olar grinned and slapped a heavy hand on Sigvar's shoulder. It's fine, lad, he said. Happens to the best of us. If that's the worst we go through, we'll all be on our knees thanking the 3. Down into the deep they continued, chased, as always, by the howls and the biting wind. It appeared like a wrath out of the fog. One moment there was nothing below them, then it was there. The Bridge of the Lost. From a distance, it looked almost as though it had been overrun by some kind of voracious black weed or thorn bush. The notion was absurd, of course, for no life could flourish at this depth. Such was the cold that almost seemed to radiate up from below. No, this growth was nothing as mundane as plant life. It was the very antithesis of life. A knot of unease had settled in Sigvar's gut, and he swallowed, feeling his gorge rising. He had heard the legends and the fireside stories from lodge members who had made this descent, but even so, it was unnerving. He dropped the final 10 feet, landing in a low crouch. His muscles burned with exertion, and his hands were twisted like claws from gripping his picks. Nevertheless, for all his exhaustion, he stared around him, barely daring to breathe, eyes wide. Touch nothing, Halla warned him. If I do touch something, that is the will of the three, is it not? Said Olar. Sigvard didn't have it in him to smile at the old warrior's jibe. Halla turned away, shaking her head. Catch your breath. This is the last bridge. There's no more stopping before we reach the bottom, and the next stretch is the longest. May the three watch over us. Having dropped his excess load, Sigvar walked into the center of the bridge, gazing around him in horrified wonder. The wind was not as fierce here, hissing through the strange, stony formation that grew like a twisting lattice around the structure of the bridge. He found it hard to fathom what he saw, though just gazing upon it made him feel sick. Giant arcs of what looks like volcanic rock encased the bridge, as if bursts of lava had leapt along and around the length of the bridge before hardening suddenly in midair. He knew the history of this bridge, of course. That which was trapped below had tried to escape its imprisonment long ago, long after the time of the three. Here, Frostguard had fought that darkness, and here they had died. And with each death, the power of what dwells below grew. It consumed the bodies of the fallen, absorbing and repurposing them to fuel more explosive growth. Such was its nature. It might lie dormant for thousands of years, inert and seemingly lifeless, only for a single drop of blood to rouse it in sudden, shocking violence. What Sigvar was looking at, those strange, nausea-inducing, looping arcs and conglomerations of misshapen detritus, were the growth paths of what dwells below, as it had left from Frostguard to Frostguard, claiming them. And from the matter it consumed, things had been born. There was an uncomfortable, maddening pressure on Sigvar's mind here, a pressure that seemed to be coming from below. He pressed his knuckles into his temples, trying to relieve it. From nowhere, a memory long forgotten came back him in a rush, like a swarm of bats bursting from a cave. He remembered his childhood, before he had been taken by the Frostguard. He remembered the ice arcs of his tribe, sleek, three-masted ships that raced across the frozen wastes upon sharpened keel blades. He remembered the night their ships had slid to a halt at the great pinnacle. Black-helmed warriors of the Frostguard awaited them there. Sigvar and 6 other children under the age of 10 winters were chosen from among the tribe. It was a great honor, and there, under the midnight sun, he watched his tribe sail away. It was the last time he saw his family. He was taken to the citadel, where he underwent trials, and was subjected to the grueling, brutal testing. One by one, the other children of his original tribe dwindled, until he was the only one that remained. By then, he had all but forgotten his tribe. He had a new family, a new faith. He was Frostguard. A hand of his shoulder brought him, shuddering, back to the present. He was sitting with his back against the splintered stone statue of an ancient guardian. He had no memory of sitting down. Olar was stooped over him. "Don't sleep," said the old warrior. "Bad dreams down here. Bad memories." Sigvar climbed to his feet. He hadn't thought about his old tribe for years. The lingering fragments of the dream slipped away, leaving Sigvar with a deep sense of unease. It is time, said Hala. And so they began their final descent. There was nothing below them now but madness and cold and darkness and dread. What dwells below waited, just as it had for millennia. The ice darkened the further down they went. Black veins spread through it, clawing upward. A vague, crackling sound surrounded them, seeming to scratch at the back of Sigvar's eyes. He could see no movement, but he imagined it came from those unnerving threads in the ice, seeking to escape this accursed pit and reach for the surface. Sigvar tried to push the sound from his head, invoking the litanies under his breath, and focusing on each kick of his toe spikes, each strike of his picks. The ice was less even here, with jutting sections and savage, undercut overhangs to traverse. At times, the three Frostguard were forced to continue using only their picks, legs dangling precariously above the endless depths as they worked their way ever downward. Twice their progress was blocked, with no conceivable way down, and they were forced to backtrack until Hala determined a new route. Icy fog closed in tightly around them, heavy and oppressive, such that Sigvar could no longer see his companions below. The fog muffled all soundbar that incessant. What? The fog muffled all soundbar that incessant. Maddening scratching. At the last, a floor of solid ice emerged, surprising Sigvar with its abrupt appearance through the fog. Hala and Olar waited for him, having already unburdened themselves of their packs, ropes, and picks. The silence here was overbearing. Even the crackling in the ice seemed to have stopped. "We're at the base," whispered Sigvar, his breath fogging the air as he shrugged off his gear. "This is as far as we go," said Olar in a low voice. "But it delves deeper still." The older Frostguard ushered him forward, pointing. They stood close to a precipice, and Sigvar saw the chasm dropped away below them, ever deeper. "How far?" he whispered. "No one knows. To the center of the world and beyond, perhaps to the realm of what dwells below." Sigvar tapped one toe spike onto the ice underfoot. "We could very easily have missed this. We come down 30 feet that way, and we would be climbing down forever." "Ice in her soul would not have steered us wrong," said Olar, putting a hand on Sigvar's back, guiding him to Hala. Sigvar knelt, placing one gloved hand near the ice. The cold was intense, causing him pain even through his thick layers. More than just cold, though, the ice radiated power. "This is all true ice?" he whispered, his eyes alight with reverence and awe. "It is," said Hala. "Only the chosen few have seen it. The eye is truly upon you, Half-Quiver. Upon all of us. We are blessed." True ice was part of the Frostguard faith, revered as a holy gift from the three. Infused with ancient elemental power, it was harder than iron, and would never melt, even in the hottest forge. Except for when Avarosa is in it. I only say Avarosa because I forget the other person's name. Sil something. The other sister, anyway. Then it will melt. To carry a weapon that bore even a portion of true ice, like the warhammer Thunderchild borne by Olar, and Hala's twin axes, Bloodfang and Bloodclaw, was an honor of deeply religious significance. The skill to craft such weapons was long lost. Those remaining were sacred relics carried by iceborne heroes of long ago. Sigvar prayed he would one day be found worthy to bear such a venerable relic, but for now his trusty hand-and-a-half sword, forged in a land far beyond the frozen wastes, would do. It was a fine weapon, by any measure, and had never let him down. "We are close. The three be praised," Hala said. "We move." They loped along the ravine, running as a pack, with Hala leading the way. The temperature here was unlike anything Sigvar had ever experienced, though he had lived his whole life in the barren, frozen wastes. Despite his layers of skins and furs, it chilled him to the bone. And every breath was painful. His exposed face was quickly encased in a thin layer of ice, which cracked every time Sigvar blinked. Olar's beard was frozen, such that it could have snapped here where it struck. Frost crackled off their boots as the ice underfoot tried to claim them, making every step an effort. Only an iceborn could survive this. Even so, Sigvar wasn't sure how long he would last down here. An hour? Perhaps 2? Certainly no longer than that. Halla kept them moving. To stop was to die. They came, finally, to a section where the chasm narrowed, so that they could only proceed one by one through the gap. Halla went first, and Olar indicated that Sigvar should go next. What? Do not let your gaze linger on it, warned Olar. It is not a good thing to look upon. What do you mean? Said Sigvar. Olar merely shook his head, and would say no more. Sigvar pushed himself into the crevice, wondering what it was the old warrior meant. The gap was narrow, and he was considerably larger than Halla. The true ice seared him as he squeezed through, pressing in on all sides. He was so cold that he was sure one hammer blow would shatter his bones. But he continued on, edging forward, inch by inch, until he was through. A large, bowl-like cavern awaited him on the other side. The ice underfoot here was clearer, shifting from opaque towards transparent. In the middle of the cavern, it was perfectly smooth, like a black mirror. The floor at the center was a broad expanse, surrounded by massive, jutting shards of true ice. They looked like pillars, arranged in a rough circle around the open middle, giving the cavern the feel of some sacred circle of lost gods. There were 9 of those icy pillars, and it took Sigvar a moment to realize the significance of that number. The Hall of the 9, he said, in reverence. He had learned of the 9, of course. They were akin to great shackles, holding what dwells below down, and were said to have been created by magic long lost. Some said that it was the Yetis who created the 9, but Sigvar had long grown out of such childish tales. Even so, he knew they had arrived at their destination. We stayed to the edges, outside the circle, said Halla. Once Olar had slipped through the narrow defile to join them. Go nowhere near the center of the ice, and do not look down. Sigvar knew she was speaking for his benefit, and he nodded. Each of the 9 must be checked. I will start here and go that way, said Halla, indicating the closest pillar and motioning past it, around to the right. Stonefist, you start there, and go that way. Take the boy with you. At any other time, Sigvar would have bristled to have been called a boy, and have someone tasked to watch over him. He'd faced charging troll berserkers in deepest winter, and felt nothing but savage joy. But right now he was grateful to remain at Olar's side. A palpable tension hung in the air, like the threat felt in the moments between a lightning flash and the thunder's crash. They walked towards the nearest pillars, Sigvar making a conscious effort to keep his gaze high. Once, perhaps, this had been an enclosed cave, but the roof had long ago collapsed. Sigvar had the impression that the collapse had been caused by something vast having been hurled down from above. He dared not look down, but even so he could see the dark shadow beneath the eyes at the periphery of his vision. It tugged at him, as if straining for his attention. Don't look, Olar hissed, perhaps feeling that pressure himself. Halla reached the first ice shard and began a slow circle around it, peering intently. Olar and Sigvar approached the second. What do we look for? Said Sigvar in a low voice, struggling to keep his gaze from wandering towards the center of the ice. Anything that has changed, replied Olar. Up close, Sigvar could see threads of frozen darkness trapped within the true ice. How do we know if anything has changed? He murmured. Yeah, because I was like, okay, when he said that, I'm like, but bro, you said that like majority of the people die. They don't go down again. Sure, Olar has been here. What did he say? 3 times? So if he, if anything, would have known if something had changed, but it's like, how is Sigvar supposed to know if anything has changed if he's never fucking been there? Olar didn't answer at first. Eyes narrowed as he surveyed the sharply angled sides of the towering ice shard. Finally, he gave a grunt and pointed. Runes were carved in the ice long ago, when what dwells below was first banished. See here? Sigvar stepped in closer and saw a small series of lines carved into the surface, forming runic script. What does it mean? He asked. It means the ice has not melted. Come, let's check the next one. They set out, hugging the left wall of the cave, continuing to skirt the open expanse in the center. I assume that they're telling me that, like, true ice cannot be melted, you know, by force or like by trying to melt it. It will melt with time, which is like over hundreds of years, then maybe it will start to melt. That's what it sounds more like. So it's like you can't melt it. It would melt naturally by itself after years and years and years. Then I will accept it. Sigvar would never be able to clearly articulate what happened next. He remembered following Olar, staying close as they moved toward the next pillar. He remembered a heavy pressure building in his skull, and the sensation of movement in the corner of his eyes. The silence weighed upon him, oppressive and heavy, and everything seemed to become unclear, as if he were surrounded in a sudden fog, muffling every sense. Then he was standing out in the center of the ice, gazing downward. An immense eye stared back at him, unblinking. Sigvar's soul recoiled, screaming inwardly, yet he was unable to look away, completely enthralled to the giant, staring, lidless eye. I would have freaked. I hate eyes. I have issues with eyes. Perhaps 20 feet of solid ice separated him from his shadowy behemoth, but it was not nearly enough. It was impossible to see clearly, but Sigvar was left with an impression of the shadowy, coiling, tentacled limbs that surrounded the great eye. Vel'Koz! It would have dwarfed even the largest of the titanic leviathans that swarmed the fathomless depths beneath the ice floes. A creature of such size should not be. And it was not dead. There was life and a vast, unknowable intelligence in that stare. It saw him. Its gaze bored into him, through him, and he felt his insanity begin to unravel like a spool of yarn hurled into the night. Sigvar's stomach was an ever-tightened knot, dark shadows coiling at the edge of his vision, squirming in serpentine, threatening to... A hand grabbed him by the scruff of his collar, hauling him backward. He stumbled, boots flailing and slippering as he was dragged out of the circle, and dumped unceremoniously on the ice beyond. He scrambled to his feet, shadows and coiling shapes still swimming in his mind. Dimly, Sigvar registered Olar standing before him, gripping his furs in one tight fist. Halla was on her knees nearby, praying frantically. The writhing shadow still moved at the corner of his eyes, and his head felt heavy, filled with a stifling fog. Unwittingly, his gaze started to turn back towards the center of the ice. Back toward... Olar's heavy fist struck him across his jaw, snapping his head back sharply. Don't look at it. Sigvar blinked, his head a little clearer, and he nodded. Halla, he's not strong enough, said Olar, fist poised. All the humor in his eyes was gone, replaced with an intense, ruthless chill. He should go back. No, said Sigvar, I'm fine. He should go back, Olar repeated, looking to Halla. She finished her hurried entreaties and pushed herself to her feet, studying Sigvar with narrowed eyes. I'm fine. I can do this, he assured them both. If he falters again, kill him, said Halla. Go. Check the pillars. Wow. She made her way to the next one, crunching over the ice. Don't make me do it, Olar growled at Sigvar. I don't want to have to haul your body back out. No corpse could be left down here, for fear that it could be used to spark the growth of what dwells below. It would be an incredibly difficult climb back out anyway. Sigvar couldn't imagine how hard it would be to have to haul a body out as well. And Olar had to bear out 2 bodies on his last couple of climbs, he reminded himself. His reverence for the old warrior was redoubled. I will not look, vowed Sigvar, keeping his eyes locked on him. Let's go. Olar grunted and gestured to Sigvar to take the lead. They located the rune on the next pillar almost instantly. Here, said Olar, pointing it out. The edges of what marking were so sharp. What? The edges of that marking were so sharp it could have been carved only an hour earlier, not thousands of years ago. That was good. It meant the ice had not melted in all that time. This one's yours, said Olar, as they approached the next, mighty pillar, jutting up at an acute angle from the floor. Acute? I'll check the next. Don't let me down, boy. Sigvar nodded as the warrior left him to survey the shard alone. It was almost completely black, and as he looked upon it, the shadows at the edge of his vision seemed to return, making it seem as though things were moving within the eyes. He shook his head, walking around the pillar, eyes tracking up and down, searching for a rune, but finding none. Every angled surface was completely smooth. Frowning, he made second pass, moving more slowly this time. Still, he found nothing. Glancing towards the others, he saw Halla and Olar had almost linked up, having checked all but the last 2 pillars. Come on, he said to himself, blinking hard. Focus. He made a third turn around the circumference. Still nothing. Halla and Olar were making their way towards him, their expressions grim. When he looked at the pillar again, he would have sworn he saw a bead of water sliding down its side. But that was truly impossible. Narrowing his eyes, he leaned in. Up close, he could see the ice was slick with moisture. The edges of the shard were less defined when they were on the other pillars, blunted and rounded smooth. He was surprised he hadn't noticed that sooner. Still, he felt no sense of alarm, even when he saw the flicker of movement within the dark eyes. An unnatural sense of calm infused his being. Dimly, he heard a shout from behind him, but it barely registered. The sound was muffled, as if it were coming from a long way away. He gave it no mind. All that mattered was the blackness in the eyes before him. It was calling to him, whispering to him, urging him closer. The shadows were no longer just as the The shadows were no longer just at the periphery of his vision. Now they were all he saw. He reached out toward... A hand grabbed his own. Halla's hand. He was hurled backwards, hitting the eyes almost 10 feet away. Dude, this dude... In horror, he recognized the darkness thrashing within the ice pillar, struggling to be free. It stabbed from within, straining to breach his prison. He realized that it had been reaching for him. Halla's eyes were closed, one hand outstretched over the weak point in the eyes where the darkness attacked. In her other hand, she clutched her talisman of Lissandra. She barked a catechism of the faith, and her outstretched hand began to glow with cold light. New ice crystals began to form upon the pillar's face. It was not going to be enough. What Halla was praying into existence was not true ice. No one had the ability to create that anymore. A spider web of cracks appeared upon the surface, as the darkness within redoubled its attack. With her eyes closed, Halla didn't see it, and Sigvar was too far away, even as he lurched to his feet and drew his sword. Olar was suddenly at Halla's shoulder, Thunderchild clasped in both hands. Just as the darkness breached the pillar's surface, spearing towards Halla with the speed of a lightning strike, Olar shouldered her aside. His warhammer smashed the tendril of darkness asunder with a deafening crack. It was not the only one, however. 3 more spat from the rupture. Stone Fist, bellowed Sigvar. He leapt forward, but was too slow. They all were. Olar staggered back, swatting one of the tendrils aside with a sweep of Thunderchild, but was unable to stop the other 2. They thrust into his flesh with relish, one piercing the meat of his left shoulder, the other the side of his neck, biting deep. Olar's stone fist muscles rippled as the unearthly tentacles writhed into him. His veins turned black, starkly visible through his pale skin, and he dropped to his knees. Sigvar made to grab him, but Halla pulled him back. "No," she shouted. "It will claim you too." With his last strength, Olar tossed Thunderchild towards them, spinning it across the ice. "Go!" he gasped. "Get word to the citadel." "Take the hammer," Halla yelled at Sigvar. "We can't leave him. It is too late. He is already gone." Sigvar watched in impotent horror as Olar was consumed. The Frostguard warrior was shuddering, and most of his skin was now horrible shades of black and purple, like a bruise. More than a dozen tendrils pierced him, connecting him to the darkness within the eyes. "Take the hammer, Half-Quiver," repeated Halla. Sigvar sheathed his blade and picked up Thunderchild, bracing for the pain. It made him gasp, the intensity of its cold flowing swiftly up his arm to his heart, almost making it stop. But he did not fight it. He embraced it, becoming one with it. A creeping shape, ridged and segmented like an insect, began to spread across Olar's flesh. It hardened, like cooling volcanic rock. A sickening purple light began to pulse within him, like a second heartbeat radiating out through his flesh. In horrified disgust, Sigvar realized something was growing within Olar. With an anguished cry, Halla hurled the blood claw, sending the axe spinning end over end through the air. It struck Olar square between his eyes, killing him instantly. It was a merciful act, yet it saddened Sigvar to see a legend of the Frostguard meet such an ignoble end. Ice instantly formed upon Olar's corpse, extending down from where Bloodclaw was embedded. Crackling hoarfrost soon encased his head, chest, and arms. The power of the true ice seemed to stall the consumption, the tendrils becoming slow and sluggish, the purple light within him dying. "Has it stopped?" hissed Sigvar. "For now, perhaps." "Your axe?" "We leave it," said Halla, speaking swiftly. "With the blessing of the three, it will hold what dwells below in check. But there is no knowing how long. We have to go. Now." Sigvar didn't argue. He began to pick his way around the edge of the circle, but Halla stopped him. "Too slow," she barked. "Across the middle. Go." Sigvar froze, unwilling to step onto the open ice. But as Halla sprinted out before him, he took a reluctant first step. Forcing his gaze to remain raised, he followed her gingerly at first, then moving faster. At any moment he expected to feel a movement below him as the immense horrific creature trapped in the ice awoke from its endless slumber. He could feel its malign force working on him, straining at his consciousness, like clutching tendrils. It was watching him, that giant, lidless, unblinking eye boring into him from below. The urge to look down was overpowering. Sigvar tightened his grip on Thunderchild, gritting his teeth against the pain of his cold. He kept his gaze locked onto Halla as he breathed the litanies. "Turn not from the pain, for pain is life, and its absence means death. Savor his caress, welcome it." Even when he stumbled, he resisted looking down. Every step was an effort, like he was running through a snowdrift. He could feel the eye boring into him, whispering to him, calling to him. He croaked the blessings louder to drown it out. Then he was across, and he gasped for air as the pressure upon him lessened. Halla was there, urging him on. She shoved him ahead, towards the narrow defile marking their exit. Just before he slipped through, Sigvar glanced back. Did he see that purple light within the frozen corpse of Olar? He had no time to check, as Halla pushed him urgently through. "Go, go," she said. There was no time for a careful, steady passage. Sigvar pressed forward, grinding against the ice, uncaring of the pain. On the other side, the two of them sprinted through the ravine, racing back to where they had descended the ice walls. "We have to alert the citadel," Halla huffed as she ran. "The 9 has been breached. The chains that hold back what dwells below have been weakened. All the other sides Must be checked. The ice must be reformed. They reached the discarded climbing gear, breathing heavily. Should we stay to fight it? Sigvar gasped. The Watcher will only awaken once all of the pillars are breached, said Halla. Bloodclaw should hold back any lesser creature. And if it doesn't? Then we will kill it, said Halla. But word must reach the Citadel. At least one of us has to make it back. Leave anything you don't need. With some reluctance, Sigvar swung his shield off his shoulders and propped it against the ice wall. His scabbarded sword joined it, and Halla helped him strap Thundershell across his back. They roped themselves together, securing their ice picks, and began the long climb back to the top. And all the while, he felt a great eye in the ice below, staring upward. Hella creepy. The shell that had been Olar's Stonefist cracked open with a wet tear. An opaque thing spilled forth in a tumble of hissing ichor and segmented limbs. It righted itself unsteadily, clawing at the eyes with talons the length of daggers. A slashing tail unfurled behind it, and it lifted its head. All bony tusks and jutting spines, revealing a burning, purple-tinged light at its heart. Sections of its spongy, flexible exoskeleton closed protectively around that heart and began to harden. It was a sticky white color, devoid of hue, but its hide quickly darkened, as if in reaction to the air. The creature's eyes tore open to look upon the icy world into which it had been born. 12 pinpricks of hot, purple light gathered in 3 clusters. It lifted its head high, and keening birth screamed ripped from its throat. Halla and Sigvar were halfway to the Bridge of the Lost when the inhuman cry reached them. It echoed through the fog all around them. It was impossible to tell the direction it came from, or how close it was. Climb faster, was all Halla said, and the pair increased their pace, eschewing safety for speed. Their picks hacked into the ice in a wild flurry, and they drove themselves upward with powerful kicks, toe spikes biting deep. Sigvar kept glancing down, expecting some nameless horror to emerge from the depths at any moment. And then, just as the ghost of the Bridge of the Lost appeared through the fog above, it did. Ice in her soul, he hissed, and Halla looked down past him. Move, she shouted, eyes narrowing. They climbed frantically. If that thing made it to them before they reached the bridge, they'd be helpless. Sigvar glanced back once more, to see the creature racing up on them. It ascended with vile, sinuous movement, multiple bladed limbs stabbing into the eyes with frenzied speed. Glowing eye clusters blazed, and it screeched, the sound like steel grinding on steel, mandibles clacking. Halla made it to the bridge first. Turning, she reached down to Sigvar with her iron grip, and hauled him over the edge. By the time he regained his feet, she had untied her ropes and had Bloodfang at the ready. In her other hand, Halla held one of her ice picks. It was a poor substitute for Bloodclaw, but would have to suffice. Sigvar dropped his picks and made to unsling Thundershell from his back, but Halla stopped him. No, she said. Keep climbing. I will stand with, he began, but she cut him off with a glare. You will climb, half-quiver, she said, pointing at him with Bloodfang. No discussion. But no discussion, she snapped. Climb. Get word to the Citadel. But I should be the one who— Go! She roared, with such fury that Sigvar took a step back. Go, half-quiver, she said quieter. If the 3 will it, I will join you shortly. With great reluctance, he scooped up his picks and began climbing. As Halla dropped to her knees in prayer, eyes closed. She will die. If she's gonna pray instead, she's dead. He was some 30 feet up the wall when the creature scuttled over the edge of the bridge. It looked up, its eyes locking onto Sigvar, and started to move in pursuit. Here, you ugly beast, Halla called out, rising to face it. Come to me and let me smite you down, by the will of the 3. Sigvar looked on, powerless. The creature below swung its attention from him to Hala and leapt toward her with seemingly impossible speed. She rolled under its scything strike, talons sweeping through the air just inches above her. She hacked Bloodfang deep into its side as she came up, sending forth a burst of steaming entrails and eliciting a horrible screech. Then she followed up with a strike from her ice pick, but it bounced harmlessly off the beast's toughened exterior. She danced away, spinning out of range as the monster leashed out at her again. Hala struck twice more, hacking off one of the vile creature's limbs and scoring a deep wound across the side of its head, but it was unnaturally fast. As Hala's axe came back for another blow, it darted forward and stabbed one bladed limb through her forearm, making her drop Bloodfang with a hiss of pain. She hacked desperately at the creature's face with her ice pick, but managed little other than putting out a few of its eyes. Her arm was still impaled. She couldn't get away. With a roar, Sigvar ripped his picks from the eyes and pushed himself off. 30 feet he fell before landing, knees bent and hands outspread for balance, right beside Hala. The frozen flagstones cracked under the impact, and he rolled hard, the wind driven from his lungs. He already had Thunderchild in his hands as the creature turned its attention toward him. It tried to tug its clawed limb from Hala, but she clutched onto it, keeping it trapped, even as it struggled. Strike, Half-Quiver! Its maw opened impossibly wide, exposing rows of serrated fangs and tusks, and screamed in defiance as Sigvar brought Thunderchild around in a lethal blow. The immense hammer took the creature squarely in its head, half pulping it and sending it flying, with a burst of coal and crack like thunder. The hateful beast struck the balustrade of the bridge and tried to scramble to its feet, but staggered drunkenly, the purple light at its heart faltering. Bellowing, Sigvar charged the monster as it tried to recover. It hissed but could do nothing to avoid its next attack. This time, Thunderchild smashed it squarely in the chest, crushing its exoskeleton and sundering the protective cage around its glowing heart. As the beast sailed over the edge of the bridge, flailing wildly, that heart darkened and died. Then it was swallowed by the fog and was gone. That was rash, said Hala. She was slumped on the ground, her wounded arm hanging loose at her side. Her skin was pale, paler than usual, and her eyes were sunken and dark. Or perhaps it was the will of the three, Sigvar replied, moving to her side and dropping to his knees. Perhaps, she conceded, smiling weakly. Using a knife, Sigvar cut away the bloodied sleeve under Hala's injured arm. The flesh around the wound was dark and steaming. Blackness was already spreading into her veins. Both of them knew what could happen if that darkness were to spread any further. Use Bloodfang, said Hala. There was no hint or fear in her voice. Aim true, she added, tapping the center of her chest. Oi. Sigvar took up Bloodfang, gouging its weight. Ice radiated from its haft over his hands, but he barely registered. It has not yet spread beyond your arm, he said. It may not. Hala stared up at him, eyes clear and devoid of fear, and she nodded. Do it, she said. Yes, she did not want to be crippled. For 3 days, Sigvar climbed, and for 3 days he felt a malignant eye in the deep watching him. Did he bring her body, though? He felt a ravenous hunger in that gaze, gnawing at him, eating away at his resolve, but he continued on. Endure, without complaint. The ice begs not for mercy, nor offers it. Neither shall we. While the hunger of that ancient being was palpable, Sigvar realized there was no real emotion in it. It did not feel anger or hatred or resentment at its fate. It was dispassionate, uncaring, unknowable, and patient, in a sense that made it even more horrific. Nor was it alone. Sigvar had no idea how many other watchers were trapped down at the bottom of the howling abyss, but as he climbed, he felt other gazes turning toward him, following his progress. Finally, he pulled himself onto the Bridge of Sorrow. Only now, as he climbed from the great chasm, did he finally move beyond their gaze. Hala, ice in her soul, was roped to his back. Good. Very nice. Her eyes were closed and her breathing shallow, but she lived. Oh, okay. Her left arm was gone below the shoulder, but there was no blood on her sleeve. The true ice core of Bloodfang had effectively sealed the wound. Bearing her had been exhausting, making the difficult climb that much harder, but such was his duty, and he had done it without complaint. I thought she meant, like, do it as, like, fuck it, kill me. Like, don't take my arm, just fucking kill me. I guess not then. Or maybe she meant that he was like, fuck that, I'm taking your arm, bitch. You're coming with me. Pausing only a few seconds to catch his breath, Sigvar stomped heavily across the bridge, towards the citadel. It felt like he had been gone for years. The way was obscured with a billowing ice storm, so that he couldn't see more than a dozen yards. As the walls loomed out of the storm before him, he saw a shadowy figure awaiting him. Relaka Split-Tongue, Frost Father of the Keepers, leaned heavily upon his staff of office. Sigvar eyed the black tip of that staff as he stomped to a halt before the gate, and took in the shard of ice hanging around the priest's neck. He looked upon the two of them with unease. He knew where they came from now. Few among your brethren have glimpsed the darkness below as we have, said the old priest. Your understanding of the faith has deepened, but there is still much to learn. Sigvar nodded, accepting this. Split-Tongue's gaze then settled on Hala, strapped unconscious upon Sigvar's back, before shifting behind him, searching. Stone Fist? He asked, to which Sigvar simply shook his head. He was too exhausted to say more. From ice we are born, and to ice we return, said the Frost Priest, touching the center of his forehead in reverence. It's melting, Sigvar managed. One of the 9. Something emerged. The Watchers stir, breathed the priest, eyes widening. Perhaps in awe, perhaps in fear. Sigvar merely nodded, his breathing ragged. His prodigious strength was close to failing him. Our revered mistress, the Lady of Ice and Darkness, must be informed, said the priest. The immense gates of the citadel ground open, the shadows within beckoning. Come, Iceborn, we must prepare for what is to come. The ice is melting. The void is emerging. That's what I've understood from this, at least. The void is on its fucking way. The void. Wow, that was hella long. Very good though. I mean, I literally, this felt a lot like Ruination, so. Since it's Anthony Reynolds. He's very good at writing. Okay, but we have one more short story for Lissandra as well. One more short story. Let's see if it's short or not. The Dream Thief. It is shorter. Thank God. Okay, this was interesting. Hello. Oh shit, you went to the doctors and came back and the story wasn't ended? Damn. I mean, it was hella good. But we have more. The Dream Thief by Matt Dunn. And I think I've read other stories by Matt Dunn. I recognize his name. Probably then. Most likely. The Ice Witch does not sleep in her citadel. She sleeps anywhere, and everywhere, and nowhere. Sometimes all at once. The cavernous place where she now chooses to lay her body down for a few hours could hold 1,000 fortresses. A veritable sea of true ice stretches from underground horizon to underground horizon. They are not the horizons of the tumultuous world above, but closer, much closer, to an entirely different kind of madness. She visits this place often, and always by herself, but she is never alone. Some call them monsters, some call them gods. Regardless, the vast shadows that slumber beneath the icy blanket can only dream. Lissandra checks in dutifully. Make sure their bedding is comfortable. The watchers must not wake. She lost her eyes long ago, so it is her mind that traces their sleeping forms. What she sees has always chilled her beyond the concerns of flesh and bone, so that she no longer shivers at the touch of ice against her skin. When she is down here, her blindness is a blessing. It is horror enough to feel their presence, to walk in their dreams, to know what it is they desire for this world. And so she must keep them dreaming. One of them has begun to stir. Lissandra sensed it with the last new moon, hoping against hope that it would settle itself once more. But now its abyssal intelligence squirms against the others, growing ever more restless. She removes her helm. Her ceremonial robes fall around her ankles, and she pads out across the frozen emptiness beyond. Lissandra splays her fingers across the ice. Her hair hangs over her face, hiding the lines of age and the scarred ruin of her empty eyes. She learned long ago the secret ways to walk in dreams, to traverse the impossible distances of this harsh land in moments, back and forth 100 times before each new dawn. Sometimes she forgets where her physical body is. Her mind drifts down now, through the barrier. She muses briefly at the thickness of the true eyes. To place the entire burden of faith upon glass is pure folly, and yet there is no other choice. On the other side, the watcher is all teeth and darkness and shittering, frustrated anticipation. It is bigger than a mountain. Is it one of the small ones? Lissandra hopes so. She has never dared probe the defenses of the largest, the ones that seem able to devour gravity and time itself, eaters of not only worlds, but entire planes of reality. They make her feel very small and insignificant, like a single mote of frost in a blizzard. She focuses on the great and terrible creature before her. Its dream becomes hers. Another Lissandra waits for her there, in the dreamscape. This ageless being towers behind a black sun, the strands of her hair floating into the heavens, her eyes whole, crystal blue, and shining all with the celestial energies of the world's final dawn. She is beautiful. She is a goddess. She's struggling to press the sun down below the horizon. The fiery black orb fights back, trying to rise again. It burns the goddess's fingers. She sees long shadows falling over mountains blanketed with frozen ashes. This land is a mockery of the Freljord, devoid of all life and magic. Life. Life is the key. The living souls of the Freljord, this icy land that Lissandra once offered in sacrifice to the beast below. She leads the stirring watcher away from its own dark thoughts, as gently as she can, and tries to soothe it with the dreams of others. And I will continue reading in just a second because I have to piss, so I'll be right back. Okay, there we go. Ugh. Good sweet. Hello. Hello. As always, as you finish the story. Perfectly in frame. The tribe is split across 3 camps. It is this way because the Iceborn War Mother decrees it so. To hedge against an assassin blade, she says, so that none will know in which tent she slumbers. Glacier underfoot, stars overhead. The priest marks his observation on a fold of cured elnic skin by candlelight upon an icy outcropping. His hand is steady and bold. He must send his notes each night to the Frostguard citadel. He wonders, does power mask paranoia? He sees his breath and knows that he is not alone. Shame constricts his throat. Dutifully, he reaches for a strip of cloth to honor Lissandra, greatest of the 3. After all the oaths he spoke, only her gaze could ever bring such a chill to his heart. Do not bind your eyes, she says, emerging from the night shadow. Her voice is steady and cold. Forgive me, he says. I am late. I am late. My reports are, it is not your words I seek. You are dreaming. I need you to listen. Listen to the eyes. The Frost Priest's eyes widen at what he hears. The eyes hungers. No, not the eyes. Something beneath it? What does it mean? He asks. But Lissandra is gone. The priest awakens. He ruminates on the dream. He pledged to serve, freeze, and bleed blindly. He reached for the strip of cloth and binds his eyes. Before dawnbreak, he is miles away from the War Mother and her 3 camps, and Lissandra drifts away into another's dream. 7 ice hawks take flight across a blue sky, scattering the frost from their feathers. The dismal fang of a mountain looms over a beach of rounded grey stones, descending into the shallows of the sea. The little girl, no one remembers her name but her, walks alone. She picks up a crab. It's black, with square eyes shriveling atop its head. She holds it carefully, its legs tickling the palm of her hand. She looks up to see a chunk of ice floating in the dark water, carried to land on near-frozen tides. It bumps onto the rocky shore and begins to melt. Inch by inch, it shrinks away to reveal the form of a woman curled in a cradle of ice, a thing born of winter. The girl drops the crab. Lissandra rises from the breaking waves like a witch, the girl shrieks. A gale of ice and snow and searing cold bursts from her mouth. The witch vanishes, and only the little girl crying a blizzard remains. She wakes with a start beside a dying fire, surrounded by other sleeping children. They are the ones orphaned upon the Freljord's reddening snow. A stern-looking woman watches over them, an axe strapped to her back. They all know she would die for them. An ember pops from the hearth, landing in the shady furs at the girl's feet. She touches it with her finger. It freezes solid in an instant. Already walking into another dream, Lissandra knows to watch this child. She is Iceborn. Perhaps a new weapon for the war to come. Or a new enemy. Ooh. High up in the mountains, it is not the deep cold that has laid this poor traveler low. It is his own ignorance. He hunches in a shallow cave. He hums because he can no longer sing the songs of his youth to comfort himself. He cannot bear to inhale the icy air. His beard, white with frost and frozen snot, makes it painful to open his lips, now blue and cracked. He cannot feel his legs nor his hands. He no longer shivers. He's too far gone. He has surrendered. The freeze will take his heart, and then it will be over. It's not the end he desires, but he feels warm, free. To the fair lands, to the sunshine. The lyrics lie dully around his brain. Instead of snow and ice, he sees green pastures. He can feel the summer breeze in his hair. Lissandra approaches the man from the back of the shallow cave. She can see the death in his fingers and toes, spreading slowly. He will not awaken again. This will be his final dream. She places a hand on his shoulder. No one should have to be alone in their final moments. Your people are waiting for you, friend, she whispers. Lay down in the long grass. I will watch over you while you rest. He looks up at her. He smiles and nods. He looks younger. I don't know if you can hear the crumbling from Willow's toy. Maybe when I speak. Because she's decided to play now. You know, cutie. Then he closes his eyes and drifts away. Lissandra remains on the edge of his dream until the dream is no more. War cries and death screams drag Lissandra south. She can smell blood and fire on the wind, and the sharp tang of angry steel. Grass grows here, where the thaw happens. It is not a sunny pasture, but it is the closest thing that most tribes of the Freljord will ever know. Willow? No. The dream spins and distorts. Her knees feel like they will buckle. If that would have any meaning. She steadies herself against the upright timbers of a burning hut. The flames do nothing. They are not real. Willow. Willow. You have to play with the pizza now. It's kind of distracting. Yeah. Very soon we can play with the pizza, I promise. Please don't now. No, we don't. I know, we will play with it soon, I promise. I feel so bad for taking her pizza. Very soon we will play with it, I promise. Oh, okay. I'm so dumb. Let's just, war cries and death screams drag Lissandra south. She can smell blood and fire on the wind, and the sharp tang of angry steel. Grass grows here where the thaw happens. It is not a sunny pasture, but it is the closest thing that most tribes of the Freljord will ever know. The dream spins and distorts. Her knees feel like they will buckle. If that would have any meaning. She steadies herself against the upright timbers of a burning hut. The flames do nothing. They are not real. A shadow falls over her. Long have I waited for this day, witch. Surprisingly, it is one of the Everosans, a great red-haired brute, his neck bulging with strained arteries. He hefts a notched sword over his head. The bloodlust is plain in his eyes, as he imagines victories he will never see in his lifetime. Nonetheless, he is ready to deliver the final, cleaving blow to his sworn enemy. Lissandra has lost count of how many times she had died in someone else's dream. Each time a piece of her drifts away, never to return. No, not again. Not this time. Great claws of ice close around her to form a shield, entombing her. The warrior's blade does not even ship the surface. He staggers back, roaring defiantly as he... Let him awaken, and believe himself the hero Let him awaken, and believe himself the hero who drove off the Ice Witch. It was only a dream. The Avarosan tribes will fall. just like the treacherous harridan from whom they took their name. And Lissandra has more pressing concerns. The eye of the storm is most ferocious in the Freljord. The gale roars, lightning flashes, even snowflakes can draw blood. Lissandra finds the spirit walker channeling this elemental fury. His trance is much like a dream, a bridge between worlds. The storm is a prayer, a direct line to the Ursen's demigod master. Master. Lissandra would spit. That hateful creature is one of the few memories she could not purge from the Freljord, no matter how hard she tried. Lightning strikes the shaman multiple times. A toothy maw stretches his jawline. Fingernails blacken into claws. It is neither man nor bear, but something else entirely. All its life will be much like a dream. No sleep, no joy, only the storm. Lissandra edges closer, looking for anything she can use in the roiling madness. Then the shaman's frightful gaze snaps to her, and she finds herself face to face with an avatar of the Volibear himself. Without thought, Lissandra lashes out with cleaving spikes of true eyes pulled from the earth around them. She tries to snare the creature's limbs, to slow it for even just. Dark blood stains the snow. Thunder rolls around the distant peaks. The twisted shaman falls to his knees, his body torn between the shape of what he was and what he might have become. It is a kindness, really, for his mind is still mostly his own. Other eyes shine out from the storm. These shape-changers are not the threat they once were. They are a battle for another time. For now, their delirium will serve well enough. Lissandra warily circles the watchers beneath the ice. She can see her own tiny body on the surface above them. Her pale, corpse-like flesh is almost as white as freshly driven snow. The beast is barely aware of her presence. It is like some monstrous, mewling newborn. In the dreams of the watchers, there is nothing. And more nothing. And more nothing. A horizon of nothing, framed by mountains of nothing. Above all that nothing, a sky of nothing, with dense clouds of nothing. In the face of all that was nothing, in the face of all of that nothing, Lissandra fights to remain something. The abyss yawns around her. She watches the black sun devour her avatar, but no matter how much it pulls into its maw, there is always more for it to eat. She screams and explodes into dark fractals that divide into billions of Lissandras, every one of them screaming. Against all the nothing, the sound is barely even a whisper, and yet even that is enough to rattle the dream to its very foundations. Her barely conscious body traces glyphs on the surface of the true ice-bearer. It is an old spell, born of a fire now long extinguished. She scrawls in spasms and convulsions. Her movements are desperate, jerking, clumsy. Only a thread of her spirit remains in her body. And then, in a rush, most of her returns. She vomits watery bile onto the ice, and curls up as it freezes around her. Below, the writhing shadow sleeps again. It dreams of eating her for a little while longer. And that dream buys it the only measure of peace its kind ever seems to desire. Peace. It is something Lissandra never experiences. Not anymore. She dresses herself and returns to ascend the worn steps. The Frostguard await her leadership and guidance. She will find no peace in this life. That is a small price to pay to keep the beast slumbering, dreaming, gnawing. Blistering winds lashed the orphan iceborn's cheeks almost bloody. Her nose went numb an hour ago. Or was it 2? It doesn't matter. Nothing matters, because whenever she closes her eyes, she sees the witch. Silhouetted against the never-setting sun, the woman rides a beast of ice, bone, and dark magic, and dazzles in a gown of freshly fallen snow. The horned helm that covers her eyes gives the impression of her head rising out into the stars. Parched black lips part to offer horrific prophecies. Breathe, I see you. The The Ice Witch has never failed to make a dramatic entrance into Wreath's dreams. The darkness grins, she continues, and says to me, eyes and lies make desperate tools. I implore my hand to curl into a fist, to pluck out the ever-watchful eye, to impale it upon a spike of ice, before the wind howls its song only to the widening abyss. Wreath's eyelashes have frozen shut. Now it hurts to tear them apart, but she must. The longer they're stuck together, the harder it will be to break them open. She cries out and feels hot blood trickle down her cheeks. She fogs a piece of ice with her breath and rubs it until she can see her reflection. The split in the corner of her eyelid is not too bad. What the fuck is happening? But in that reflection, she sees she is not alone in her sheltered cave. An emaciated band shivers at the entrance, with early morning light casting its blue tint over his face. Then Wreath realizes this is no fanciful illusion. The man's skin is blue and translucent. His movements are haggard and stiff, as though he's trying to reawaken his failing joints. It's cold, said the haggardly man. I knew this as I lay dying. Wreath skittered backwards on her palms and heels, away from him. I have no food, she calls out, hating the fear in her own voice. Little shelter, there's nothing for you to take from me. The man tilts his head. I am of no hunger. No shelter shields me. I saw this cave and you, as her frost clouded my eyes. Our paths are like rivers meeting. I knew this as I lay dying. Died often, have you? Just the once was enough. You... Wreath hesitates, unsure of herself in that moment. You saw the witch too? No, but I hear the witch in my veins, in every moment, with every beat of my once still heart. He holds out his blackened hand to her. There are others, little Iceborn, others we must meet, and there are many miles to tread in each other's company. And you knew all this as you lay dying. Death reveals much, little Iceborn. Wreath stands slowly, warily. Who are you? She asks. I'm no one anymore. I am but a passenger in my own body. My name is frozen over. But you may call me Shamble, and I shall call you Wreath of the Narrowfoot clan. Then come, Wreath, Iceborn of Narrowfoot. The others are near. She does not move. And who are they? The spires of the Frostguard citadel rise from the frozen landscapes. Waves of magical aurorae, greens and pinks and blues, dance in a sky that is almost always night. The stars twinkle eternally here, in the coldest and cleanest air. Few know how to find the hidden fortress. There are many in this world who would raise an army, and race it to the ground. Those who do find the citadel rarely leave on their own terms. Even so, 5 wary figures trudge down from the rocky mountain pass through the hidden wound in the very fabric of the Freljord. They seek the Ice Witch, like so many others through the centuries. They each met Lissandra in their dreams, but now they each feel something else deep inside. Something beneath the ice, something dark and empty, hungry, gnawing. So Lissandra can fucking dreamwalk? Is Lissandra even live? Like, I feel like she's like, yeah, like I'm trying to be something because I'm like kind of nothing, but she also said that she's old, and I'm like, what? She's dream hopping, like witching everyone. What? Okay, I guess I didn't know anything about Lissandra. What the fuck? Yeah, okay. I used to know that she was one of the 3 sisters and the True Eyes and all that shit, but I didn't know any of this. Okay, but I really enjoyed this. Very, very good. Hella long lore. Like, compare Lissandra to the other people we've read, like Gragas or Nar. Like, we get nothing, and here is like a novel. I read a fucking, like, a full ass novel. That's crazy. No. That's just how it is sometimes. some has way more than others. For sure. I prefer it when they have more, of course. The more to learn, you know? Very nice, very nice. Look forward to next one. But that's all I'm gonna read today. I can't believe that we only read one fucking champion today. What? Who's the next one even? Nunu Willem. Dude, I just read Lissandra story. It took like fucking 2 hours. What the fuck? What the hell? What the hell? It's actually crazy. She probably has the most lore of all of these. Like, of the whole Freljord, it seems. If they haven't updated the other ones to, like, crazy. Fuck do I know? Hey, Agron, just towards the end. When we just finished reading Lissandra's lore. For 2 hours. Holy shit. Yeah, that was crazy. Crazy did not expect. Not at all. But very much enjoyed. So. Playing Voices of the Void. We're good though. We're good, thank you. Hope you're good too. But y'all, as you saw, Willow wants her pizza, so I will give her a pizza so she can crunch it. We do be chillin'. Let's hit some Wawas. Wow. Thank you so much for joining this stream. As I already said, did not expect us to only read one champion, but sometimes it do be like that, I guess. And my voice cannot handle another champion. Because who knows what the fuck Nunu Willem has is to Saunders this much. Holy shit. Ooh. So yeah, thank you so much for joining. Please feel free to go follow me on places, most everywhere. You can follow Willow too if you would like. She's a cutie. She does cute things. Yeah. Right, here's your pizza. So thank you so much. Have a nice rest of your day, and I will see you next time. Hey,